Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome. Welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan. And as always, so glad to have you along with us as we continue this celebration. For 3 hours, this celebration of the outdoor lifestyle, we talk about the history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, wildlife issues, conservation issues, even some wild game cooking. And this week's show, once again, we will wrap up the show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. But I'm so glad you're spending some time with me here. There are so many different things vying for your attention these days, vying for your time. You know, radio, TV, live streams, podcasts, social media. It's all coming at you. Boom, 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 right? Do you ever feel like you're in sensory overload? Do you ever feel like maybe for the first time in your life you have too much information? Remember when we used to crave information and say, I wish I knew more about that, but it's hard for me to find. Short of going to a library, and that material is often dated back then, back in the day. Boy, we don't feel that way anymore, do we? I mean, honestly, today, if I have a question on my phone, and there's the answer. But there's all this content, all this material, all these live streams, all these podcasts, all these YouTube channels, all these videos, all these TV shows coming at us today. It's a lot, isn't it? And there's so much, great content, and there's a lot of crap out there too, okay? But the fact that you're hearing my voice right now, whether you're listening to the broadcast version of the show or the podcast, means a lot to me, and I do truly appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Since we've last talked, I feel like maybe the weather pattern has finally broken. Now, will we get more northeast winds? Unfortunately, I suspect we will. Man, we've had a lot of northeast winds this spring. But now we're starting to get a few southwest winds as well. Charlie, would you rattle that connection down there again? Remember that problem we had a couple of weeks ago? No. Okay, I'll remove my left ear from it. Just use my right ear. We can deal with it during the break. But I feel like the weather patterns have finally broken now. Maybe it's going to get nice. For the first time the other night at a ball game, we did not have to wear our winter coats, which was a nice change of pace. What about that smoke from the Canada wildfires? Have you seen a sunrise lately? Have you watched a sunset lately? Isn't it crazy? And I don't know, my allergies have been absolutely terrible. And a lot of people I know who have marginal allergies, they're really bad right now. Is that smoke related? I don't know. Is there that much smoke in the air that we're actually feeling it? I know, what's it been, about 5 years ago or so now, I wanted to go up, and I don't remember if it was a springtime hunt or if it was an August hunt, to go up with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters and head to White River, Ontario, Canada. And he actually was telling hunters, don't come up. He said, White River is surrounded by wildfires. And it was actually, to me, it seemed like it was pretty scary. And it was that time of year, again, I don't remember if it was spring or fall, when we were getting smoke in our air from Canada. I don't think it's going to affect my hunt this year. Now, I don't plan on going up there until August 15th this year. It's been a couple of years since I've been up there. I'm actually really looking forward to it. You know me, I love bear hunting. I love bears. I think bears they're beautiful animals. What's my appeal? What's my love for bears? I don't know. Maybe it's the fact I don't see them every day. You know, like deer here in Michigan. Are there any days I don't see deer? Probably. But if I was to go look for them, I would see deer driving around, circling the pond behind the house. We were on the golf course the other night, and it was one of those beautiful nights. The wind had just died. The sun was going down. The smoke was in the air, and you couldn't have painted a better, more beautiful picture. And we hear, meh, meh. No, that's not a very good, duplication of the sound. But we heard a fawn bleat. And then out of the woods next to the green comes this little fawn on wobbly legs, walking out bleating for its mother. Not bleating, bleating, B-L-E-A-T-I-N-G, for its mom. She called to it. He ran back into the woods. It was very, very cool. So what? So I have not been fishing because I don't have the new Angler Quest yet. That's going to change next week. So I've been trying to get in as much golf as possible, watching ball games. Of course, the golf, what I'm trying to do is just get my game to a point where I don't embarrass myself for a big golf outing coming up at the end of July. This is to benefit MUCC's youth camp. It is Friday, July 25th. We do still have some openings, but it's filling up fast. If you would like to join us, go to mucc.org/golf. That's mucc.org/golf. Proceeds going to MUCC's youth camp. Very excited about it. You don't have to be a great golfer to join us either. If you just want to have fun, enjoy the day, enjoy some great, the dinner is outstanding, and raise money for a great cause, mucc.org/golf. Another project, and this is, again, charity related, that I'm so very excited about, and this is the Mike Avery Outdoors signature knife from Rapid River Knives. I talked with company owner Chris Durson just before he left for Idaho. All right, now as we are talking, he's in Idaho on a bear hunt with the winner of their bear hunting contest. And he did shoot a nice bear. Maybe we can get him on the show here very soon to talk about that. But Chris and I are going back and forth right now on just trying to get the right color for the handle. It'll be a Uper pocket clip knife. But the handle is going to be a blood red acrylic and is it burl maple or maple burl? I don't know. It's going to be those two materials joined together. And I want just the right color red, because to me that color is going to symbolize courage, passion, commitment, and, to be honest, bloodshed. The proceeds from that knife will be given to a Michigan-based group called Outdoor Driven. The purpose of Outdoor Driven, they have been formed to help vets and first responders, and that clicks off one of my things on my list too, because my dad was a cop for 35 years. I grew up around cops. I grew up in a law enforcement family, and that hits home with me. And though my dad was very good at hiding things, I could see some of the things that were hurting him and challenging him. So the proceeds from this knife will go to Outdoor Driven to help vets and first responders. And the way we're going to do that is to take them out on hunting and fishing adventures. So I'm very, very excited about that. Okay, what else? Have you heard this? I don't know how this one snuck by me, but it did. Remember a few months ago when I was on this show and this microphone talking about how lifelong politician Dale Kildee had been appointed by the governor to be the chairman of the NRC, the Natural Resources Commission. And I expressed concern about that, not because I was challenging the character of Mr. Kildee, but I was challenging his hunting and fishing background. And the fact that he was a lifelong politician. Did we want a lifelong politician running the NRC? Well, he had the job for about 2 months and then he resigned. I don't know why he resigned. I don't know if it was more work than what he thought it was going to be. I don't know if it put him in the public eye in a negative connotation more than he was willing to deal with. I don't know if it was the fact that the NRC is not looked on favorably by many outdoorsmen and women right now, but he resigned. And a new commissioner, Becky Humphreys, has been appointed as the acting chairman of the group. So that means there's also an opening on the NRC, the Natural Resources Commission, right now. I have known Becky Humphreys since she was a wildlife biologist for the Michigan DNR at the Gratiot-Saginaw Game Area 40 years ago, 35, whatever the number is. So I feel much better about having her at the helm of that organization than a lifelong politician. So we'll see how it goes. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show after the break, Don Miller joins me to talk about Lake St. Clair muskies. That season opens this weekend. Don has been fishing them forever. Then Nick Buggia of the Michigan Wildlife Council, former chairman of the council. Now, well, we'll talk about it. We'll learn more. Lloyd Tanner in hour number 2, catfishing master. Talks about catfishing here in Michigan. Then Steve Windom of MUCC about the big golf outing coming up. The Ask Avery question, a follow-up on Proposal G, brought to my attention from a young outdoorsman, a new outdoorsman. He wants to know, what was it like before that? Well, Justin Tomei of MUCC will join me to talk about that. And in hour number 3, we're headed to Lake Michigan to fish salmon and trout with Lance Keene of Steelhead Hunter Charters. And then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what's on your mind. So glad you're with us. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across this great state of Michigan, including WZTK in Alpena. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM, 1380 AM, and also north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and the home of so many wonderful events this summer. For example, this weekend at Linwood Beach Marina is the annual Walleye for Warriors event. Now, I am out there on Sunday helping to MC the event and welcome the boaters and anglers back in. It will also be the site of the annual Angler Quest Owners Tournament coming up here. And in 2 weeks, well, a week and a half now from the time you're hearing this show, it will be our base of operations for our Wednesday Night Live as I head out on Saginaw Bay with Mr. Angler Quest himself, Brad Dupuis. So a lot of things going on at Linwood Beach Marina. The beautiful facilities, great location, wonderful boat launch, and outstanding people. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Now, heading downstate from Linwood Beach, Lake St. Clair this weekend marks the opening of the Lake St. Clair muskie season, and I can't think of anybody who's been out there chasing muskies longer on Lake St. Clair than Don Miller of Miller's Motor City Muskies, millers-sportfishing.com, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Don, welcome. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. How are you doing? We're good.
I'm doing great, man. How many years has it been that you've been out there on the lake chasing those big fish?
50 overall and 40 as a pro.
And what have you learned in that time?
Longer than I like to remember. More. It's second nature to me. So,
is it at this point?
It's like I go to sleep at night thinking about it. You know.
Yeah. Well, you learned from the best, didn't you?
Homer was the best. Yes. Homer LeBlanc was I didn't think anybody better on the lake. He was considered the Pope of Lake St. Clair, and I was at his back doorstep for many, many, many years. So.
What an experience!
A lot of things.
What an experience that must have been to pick that man's brain.
He I still got his notes in my desk that he gave me, but I go over, and if you can get over to Chicken Scratch and Sanskrit on a winter's day, sometimes and safer through it, I'm still finding things in there. I'm learning things about the lake, you know. But it's there, you know. It's coming, and I'm expecting some big things to happen, and we're going to find some fish out there. So I think the water's a little bit cooler because of the abnormally cool spring that we felt down here this spring. So fishing may be off the pace a little bit, but I think some things to key in on are going to be a subtle change in temperature out in front of a creek or a river going into the lake, where goes from 58 to maybe 62 degrees, and a little color change there from mud to stain to clean, and a few little isolated pockets of bait. I think that you're probably going to find some pretty big fish laying around that stuff, eyeballing it, waiting on some dinner to.
It has been a cold spring, hasn't it? And that water temp. I see what you're saying about that water temp, because muskies are. I don't know. I feel like they're very water temperature sensitive, or I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, they're sensitive. They're sensitive to it. Yeah, they are. They're sensitive to it. But a little change in temperature can make a whole big lot of difference when you're out there fishing and you find it and you see it. That would be a thing that I would key in on right there. So just to look for that, and a little color change with a few pockets of bait. And I think you don't leave fish to go find them, because they know where that grocery store is, and I would be keying in on that just a little bit,
Well, your statement right there, don't leave fish to find fish, is one of the, I don't think, no truer words were ever spoken about trolling big water. I first heard that statement from my dad years ago, and I've tried to live by it, but doggone it, Don. If the fishing gets a little bit tough, say I was on fish and they slow down a little bit, and I talked to his buddy and they're getting fish 3 miles away, it's like, oh, I want to run over there. But nope, don't leave fish to find fish. That's such a great saying.
No, you don't do that. You don't do that. No. You don't leave fish to go looking for other fish. The odds are, if the fish over there 3 miles away are turning on, over where you're at, they'll be turning on within a minute or two either.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, just stay close and stay in your neck of the woods, but good things will happen. You don't want to take off and go chasing rabbits down the road someplace like that. That's not good.
How is the muskie fishery on Lake St. Clair these days compared to when Homer was around and when you first started?
I think the fishing today is better than it ever has been. Multiple fish days. I don't want to say to go out there and expect 10 fish every day, but I'm going to say multiple. It hurts my feelings if I go out and I don't see, and I'm going to stay in an above average means 3 to 6 fish in a day. And I'm going to say that you can't see 10 or 15 or 20 in a day, because I've done that, but I won't advertise it. It can happen, okay? But when Homer was out there, and when 50 years ago when I started in program, if you got a strike in a day's time, you did good. If you boated a muskie in a day, that was exceptional. And if you would have caught maybe, I'm going to say 40 or 50 muskies in a season and had one close to 30 pounds, you were really something special. Today, it's not unusual to go out and see 50 or 60 muskies in a week. And 40-pounders are happening on a somewhat infrequent basis, but they're happening, you know. I mean, somebody with a fishing mind is probably going to see some of that stuff's happen to them. So it's there, and it's catch and release ethic has paid off. And I think that portable live wells have done wonderful things for the fish out there on some of the larger boats, to put good things back in the lake, in the gene pool, and take a picture of it and put it back. I think it's been working, and I would say that the guys today, I mean, if you're out there, you should be getting anywhere between, I'm going to say 3 to 400, or maybe I've even heard of a few guys getting up to close to 500 muskies in a season.
Wow.
So
wow.
It's capable, you know. So it's taken off, and arguably, I would say, in the discussion of fishing and muskies, if you were to talk about global fisheries, you have to start talking about Lake St. Clair, you know.
You have to.
For one of the best muskie fisheries.
Yeah, you have to. When you take muskies, when you think of muskies from the perspective of the guys over in Minnesota call it the fish of 10,000 casts, and you guys go out there on Lake St. Clair and you see multiple fish in a day, it has to. You have to talk about Lake St. Clair, if not the best muskie fishery in the world, in the top 3 for sure.
In the country, undoubtedly, in the country. In this country, it's the best. I mean, I mean, you got guys right now coming from different parts of this country for a chance at a 50-inch fish where that was unheard of before. So they're traveling many hundreds of miles, in some cases 1,000 miles, to come out to Lake St. Clair for a chance at a fish like that, where they would never even think about it before.
Is it
so
strictly
it's working and it's going good?
And is it strictly a trolling fishery, or are there people casting for fish on Lake St. Clair?
There are people casting now, and that has taken off very good, and it's doing very well. That used to not be you didn't see so many casting. It had a little pockets, but even the casting guys are doing phenomenal things out there, and they're seeing a lot of big fish come in. I mean, I see their pictures, and I'm talking to them, and they're getting on to them pretty good. So, yes, casting is a good thing anymore.
You got to have a pretty
It's
solid population of fish. I mean, a lot of numbers out there to go out and target them casting, because trolling, you cover so much more water.
You do. I'm a troller by trade, but I'm not gonna take anything away from the guys out there casting. They're out there muskie fishing, and the proof is in their pictures they're showing me,
Sure.
and I'm seeing the guys catch them, and it's there, and they're putting it back in the waters too. So I mean, hats off to them. They're doing a good job, and there's a lot of good casters out there in the business right now.
When I went out with you years ago trolling, the first thing that got my attention was just how fast you troll. I mean, you troll fast enough to leave a wake.
I do. I've trolled up to speeds of 7 miles an hour. You cannot take the bait away from these fish. Trust me, they are the perfect predator for fresh water. They're fast, and they can strike at speeds like a bolt of lightning and hit that bait. I mean, and they love a good chase. If you got to think about a natural reaction of the bait. If you were a little fish running from the jaws of death coming up behind you, you wouldn't slow up and die. The faster you can move it, the better they like it, the more realistic it looks to them. So, yeah, they like it moving quick,
So
and the double-bladed bucktails are taking off, too. So there's a lot of things happening out there right now.
So when you're muskie fishing, are you targeting hungry fish, or are you just trying to get a neutral fish to hit with a reactionary bite?
Boy, that's a $1 million question. I'm going to say I'd like to trigger a reactionary strike, trolling. You don't want to sort of fish the whole bait. You want to flash an image past it. And usually the planer boards are good for that. Off the back of the board, and the prop wash is very good for that. With 5 or 6 feet of line in the back of the boat, right in the props bubbles and everything back there. They purpose around back in there a lot, and I've had some whales jump on right there. And people don't think that the fish will come that close to the boat, but they don't know what boats are. But I trigger a reactionary strike, and they're curious about that. A lot of bubbles right there, and there's a good spot to disguise some of your bigger baits. And I've had some really huge fish take off on that. And I learned that from Homer LeBlanc. I mean, put that bait right in there 5 or 6 feet behind the boat. Not 15 feet behind the boat, but 5 or 6 feet in the back of the boat right there. They like it there, so leave it right there. But for me, it would be a trigger reactionary strike. I won't say that the hungry fish don't bite, because they do, and some studies have been done on my boat with the DNR, to where they had a cage that they put the fish on, and they got the contents out of the fish's belly by pumping it with water, and I seen some contents come out, and the reason why the fish did bite was because they were hungry. The full fish, we didn't seem to see too much right then.
I'll tell you what, those down. I saw you run those down rods in the prop wash, and that is a very, very cool thing to see. We're talking with Don Miller, Lake St. Clair muskie fishing guide. He's been out there for a long time. His website is millers-sportfishing.com, millers-sportfishing.com. We've got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll wrap up our conversation with Don, talking more about chasing these giant fish on Lake St. Clair. If you love to fish, I really think it should be on your bucket list. Then we'll wrap up the hour with Nick Buggia of the Michigan Wildlife Council. That's coming up in hour number 1 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY 1240 AM 100.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge. Let's go to Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based, family-owned Killer Food Plots. Two of my favorite things, Michigan-based and family-owned. There's still time to be putting in your food plots, but don't wait till the last minute. Rich Grazan of Killer Food Plots says, of course, you start with a soil sample. Always start with a soil sample. Then they have so many other services, so many other products available. Check them out online at killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. And don't forget to check out the newly revitalized Killer Food Plots podcast as well. The website, killerfoodplots.com. Right now, we're talking with Don Miller, who is a muskie fishing guide, a charter captain on Lake St. Clair. He's been out there forever. Don, when you tell me these stories about the number of fish you guys catch these days, the number of fish you see, it is truly, truly a phenomenal fishery.
It's really been taken off, and it's done well over the years. It has blossomed out, and I think I've had many people say they fished all over the country for their whole life to catch a fish like this, and would have never figured they could come to Detroit and catch it, But that's right at their back doorstep. It's right there. And a lot of people have left here. They were happy muskie fishermen and said they never would have imagined. They've been all over the country trying to catch this thing, and they always figured it would never happen in Detroit, but it did. Well, their dreams came true.
The thing about Lake St. Clair, it's a shallow body of water, but especially on the weekends, you're going to get so much recreational boat traffic. Do you even fish weekends, or do you try to stay away from them?
I fish weekends. I will move away from where the traffic is. The traffic isn't too bad out in the middle of the lake that much on weekends. Muskies are basically a river-orientated fish anyway. If you were to talk about North American muskie waters, you got the Ottawa River, the St. Lawrence River, and you have Lake St. Clair, which is a wide spot between two rivers, being the St. Clair River and the Detroit River, which carries a swift current down through there, and a good forage of anything that any muskie would ever want to eat comes through there. So it'll have some weeds in there, but on the flip side of that record, because of weeds, it helps keep your predators in there too. And it's a fairly shallow body of water. It encompasses a little over 260,000 acres of water, but it carries a current in there of a complete turnover of water of about every 5 days from the St. Clair River down to Detroit River. So it's got a good current, and muskies like that stuff. So
what about later in the summer?
All the reasons.
What about later in the summer when you get the weed growth that comes up, the weeds that hold those muskies oftentimes? But how do you troll those things?
Well, out in the middle of the lake still is the place to be at that time. In the early part of the year, your bigger girls are moving off the post-adjacent spawning areas, and your schools of bait are between them and the shoreline. So you're running somewhat parallel with the shore to pick them off as they come out into flats, and you can challenge them a little bit better that way. So when you get into the middle of the year and the weed growth is stimulated right there, they've moved out into the depths of the lake, which is out in the middle, to where you're fishing like a big, and your bait fish is there too, circling that area, and the muskies are in the middle now. So it's like a big donut with muskies in the middle, and the bait fish are around it. There could be a school of bait out there of perch, walleyes, bass going down through the lake that's literally 4 or 5 miles long, moving through there. And when you get out in the middle of the lake, you're talking 19 and 20 feet, where your big ones are right laying out there in the middle, and that stuff right there. So your strategy is a little bit different than it is in the late spring and early summer. It changes a little bit, where they're coming from the shore out to where you're sitting at a little bit, and in the summertime, middle of summer, when it gets hot, you're moving into the middle, and you're out there in the weeds, and the bait fish are around you at that time on the outside edges of you. St. Clair River, would be a spot where if the water gets real warm down by the Detroit River, which the water is 4 days old at that point, you may want to move up toward the north end of the lake off the St. Clair River where the water is 2 or 3 days old coming out of Lake Huron, and it's much cooler. So as a rule, it's usually about 8 or 10 degrees cooler up at the other end of the lake.
Real quick before
so
I have
they get a little bit lazy too.
Real quick before I have to let you go, what's the fight of a big muskie like? Are they like a king? Do they just take off and pull, or what's the feeling?
I would say that it's better than a king. It's better than a king. If you haven't had a tiger by the tail, you might know what one feels like if you hang on to one of these things.
I've never had a tiger by the tail, but I can imagine.
You would imagine what one feel like. That would be it right there. So,
Don, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. You are one of the most respected, well-respected, and admired charter captains on Lake St. Clair. You've been out there forever. Don Miller of Miller's Motor City Muskies, the website millers-sportfishing.com, millers-sportfishing.com. Don, I will be following you all summer. I'll be watching your pictures, and I'll look at all the smiling faces and the big fish. Have a great season, my friend.
Thanks, Mike. Bye-bye.
Don Miller of Miller's Motor City Muskies, millers-sportfishing.com. One of the best guys out there. I have fished with Don before on Lake St. Clair. In fact, a couple of times at least, probably more than that. And we got fish every time, and it was a wonderful experience. It was a new experience for me as a guy who was a Saginaw Bay walleye troller or a Lake Michigan salmon troller to get down there on Lake St. Clair. Whew, a lot of fun. Millers-sportfishing.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this opening hour with Nick Buggia of the Michigan Wildlife Council. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux, WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Truck Trolley. Why in the world would you want to climb up into the bed of your truck or use the old man hook to reach up in the front there? Why not just get yourself a truck trolley? You can put everything on that truck trolley and you can slide it out. You can slide it out to have access to it. It's so much easier to get to everything in the bed of your truck, including the front of your truck. Check them out online at trucktrolley.com. That's trucktrolley.com. Right now, I want to talk with a guy who has been on the Outdoor Magazine show many times. His name is Nick Buggia. Nick was the chairman of the Michigan Wildlife Council. You know, I support that group, and they're here for Generations campaign, and he's with us now to talk, well, maybe a little bit about that and more. Nick, welcome back. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, but then I was kind of sad. I heard that you were no longer chairman of the council, no longer on the council. Is that true?
Yeah. My term. So you can serve 2 terms, and my term was kind of coming to an end, and the governor were appointed by the governor, and the governor replaced me. But we've got a lot of new members on the council, but I think they're good members, and it's in good shape.
Nick, how long were you on the council then?
About 8 years.
8 years, and what changes did you see along that way? And do you think the council is doing what it was designed to?
Yeah, I do think the council is doing what it's designed to do, and a lot of that is kind of just shown through the changes I've experienced since I've been on. You know, we do a survey every year, and Michigan's always had strong support for hunting and fishing, but that support has grown, and in recent years, when you look at the country as a whole, support for hunting and fishing in the vast majority of states is declining, and it's declining at a predictable rate. But Michigan's is either held steady or grown. And I think that is, I don't want to say directly due to the Wildlife Council, but I'd like to think we've had some part in that and sharing the important work that hunters and anglers do for conservation to the general public, and help keeping that support high.
It's a pretty pure message. I mean, if you want to enjoy outdoor recreational opportunities, probably a hunter or angler helped pay for, or in most cases did pay for, the vast majority of the facilities that you're using. I don't care if you're bird watching or boating or whatever.
Yep, exactly. So it's hunters and anglers pay, and everyone gets the benefit, whether it's you like catching salamanders or bird watching or just enjoying a nice day on the water. That's brought to you by the license fees of hunters and anglers. So that's exactly right.
The promotional campaign, how has it changed over the years, and can we expect more changes in the future?
Definitely. So we are rebranding. That's kind of the sad thing is I'm leaving right when I feel like we've worked to get to this point and now I'm gone, but we're there. And, when I was first on the council, we were it's one of those things where if you move too far, too fast, too quickly, you can kind of lose your target audience. So the target audience is not hunters and anglers, although we always want to keep them in mind. And so, we weren't using images of hunters and anglers necessarily because we didn't want to, if our target audience, saw somebody carrying a gun or something like that, they might not understand what's happening. And we're to the point now where this new campaign is focused almost entirely on images with hunters and anglers, and the moments that we create, right? People, whether you hunt or fish or you don't, people want to be able to send their kids down to the creek and they can catch crayfish and find salamanders, or the moments we know about and enjoy where you're kind of bringing generations together, and you got a granddad and their grandkids in a duck blind, and they're sharing that moment when the sun comes up and the world comes to life and birds start flying. And so it's going to be a very different campaign image-wise moving forward, and really highlight kind of, what we as hunters and anglers enjoy, but also, continuing that message of, hey, we're funding conservation. This is something that brings families together. It creates jobs, and all of those. So the messaging itself is going to be very similar, but the images are going to look a lot different.
Well, Nick, I got to tell you, I think you have done a wonderful job as a member of the Michigan Wildlife Council and as the chairman. I am going to miss you because I think you've done such a great job, and I wish you nothing but wonderful, great luck, and I'm sure you and I will stay in touch.
Yep, nope, but feelings mutual. You've been one of our best supporters, and hopefully we'll be around and stay in touch.
Excellent. I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. Nick Buggia, formerly of the Michigan Wildlife Council. They're Here for Generations campaign, here for MIOutdoors.org, here for MIOutdoors.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in hour number 2, the Cat Master, Lloyd Tanner, talking about catfishing. Plus, we'll check in with a couple of the MUCC guys right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome. Welcome to another hour of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, and so glad to have you along with us. I was saying in the first hour of the show that I really appreciate you being with me. There are so many different things you could be watching, listening to, consuming right now. I mean, we are inundated with programming and podcasts and YouTube, and it's just so many things coming at us these days. So thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. This is a radio show. It is a 3-hour weekly radio show that airs on more than 30 broadcast stations across our great state of Michigan. And I do think the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station. There you get your local news and weather and sports and even your local commercials. Maybe there's an ad, maybe there's a sale, something you want to take advantage of. If you can't hear the show, if your local affiliate doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, isn't it nice to know that there is indeed a podcast version of the show that's available? You can hear the podcast on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's also on, probably anywhere you get your podcasts, you can hear the podcast version of the Mike Avery Outdoors radio show, the Outdoor Magazine radio show. Oh, I don't have the list in front of me right now, but it includes everything. Everything, I can't even, I'm there. I also do podcasts, by the way, every month for some of my advertising partners. And today, when we're done here in the studio, Charlie and I recording this week's show, we will record this month's Offshore Tackle podcast. So please keep an ear out for that as well. But as I was saying here a couple of minutes ago, regardless of how you are hearing my voice, when you are hearing my voice, thank you. It does indeed mean a lot to me. I do appreciate it. When you think about fishing here in Michigan in the summertime, a lot of different species, a lot of different kinds of fish come to mind. For example, in the first hour of the show, we were talking about muskie fishing on Lake St. Clair. I am a walleye guy. I love to troll for Saginaw Bay walleye. I used to fish almost exclusively for Lake Michigan salmon and trout. But there's also the bluegill guys, the crappie guys, the bass guys, the bass fishing. Bass fishing is huge here in Michigan. They got sturgeon fishing in some circles. I mean, there's so many different fish to target. One fish that gets overlooked and I don't think gets the attention and respect that it deserves, catfish. We have some wonderful catfishing here in Michigan. Lloyd Tanner is a guy who knows that very, very well. In fact, Lloyd lives in Indiana, but he spends a lot of his time fishing in Michigan. And a couple of years ago, his name came to my attention because he caught a new state record catfish. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Lloyd, welcome back. A pleasure to have you. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, listen, I enjoy my conversations with you. I think you are so knowledgeable, you are so passionate, and you're so willing to share your expertise. And to me, that's what makes the perfect radio guest.
Okay.
Tell me about the when you caught that state record fish. Remind me of that story.
No, we were out. It was Friday, Memorial Weekend. We were out, just went out for a night of fishing. I remember I didn't want to stay out that late because I planned on fishing a couple times that weekend, and just kind of cruising the river. We weren't doing very good at night. We caught a few fish, and it was getting close to midnight, and I was really ready to go home. And my nephew and a buddy of his, he convinced me, let's fish one more spot. So we pulled into one more spot, and probably 10 minutes sitting there. I don't even know if it was 10 minutes sitting there. Pole just went down, and fought that fish for probably 4 or 5 minutes. He got snagged up a few times, got him out of the log jam, reeled him in. Right when we netted him, I knew he was good. We do carry scales in our boat and weighed him out, and on my little cheap scale, not certified or anything, he came out like 52.7. So I knew he was close. He was above the 52 at the time. That was the record. So we decided, let's put him in the live well and we'll see, what happens. And we ended up fishing for a little bit more, called another buddy of mine, and he said, yes, let's bring him down here. I got a big live well tote. He knew all the guys to call. And that was pretty much it. Got it certified the next morning. And then Jay Wesley came down. We signed all the paperwork, and it became official. New state record.
And what was the final number on that fish? The weight?
53.5.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And what type of catfish was this?
It was a flathead catfish.
Flathead. So it was a state record flathead.
Yeah.
And you still have that state record, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's 3 years now.
Wow. Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Is most catfishing, Lloyd, done after dark at night?
When you get into the summer months, it definitely is. It becomes more difficult to catch them during the day. Early in the season, say we start our seasons really around end of March, April. Some of the fish start to come up into the rivers out of Lake Michigan where we fish in our rivers. So it's strictly daytime fishing. No one's crazy enough to hang out on the river after dark when it's 30 degrees. So,
Yeah.
but we do pretty well. I mean, when I'd say water temps around like 38 to 40 degrees, when it just starts to warm up in early spring, some of the biggest channels come in, and yeah, Michigan's got some monster channel catfish.
Yeah, you're an Indiana guy. Why do you come to Michigan to fish?
Well, around here, I have to travel probably about 3 hours south just to see any fish that are close to what Michigan has. I mean, Indiana has blue catfish, flathead catfish, and channel catfish, but they get a lot of commercial fishing on the inland water, so it's much more difficult to catch anything what I consider big. So Michigan, on the other hand, doesn't have the commercial fishing, and the numbers and the big fish up here are just, it's closer to home, and I just choose fish there now.
What what do you consider to be a big catfish?
Let's say a channel, a good quality channel would be well over 20 pounds. Flatheads, I'd say anything over 30 are pretty good.
Do we have blue catfish in Michigan?
No.
No. Okay, so we got channels and flatheads.
Yeah. A lot of people like to joke around and say they caught blues, but they're just male channels. So there's when you look at channel catfish, there's two different types, the female and the male. The male tends to look like a blue catfish, like a bluish color, gray color, depending on where you catch them, the water, the depth, all that. They come in many colors, but it's strictly channel cats up here in Michigan.
So when you hit the water, are you targeting channel cats or flatheads, or do you approach them the same way and you don't know which one's going to bite?
Yeah, it's more of a seasonal thing. So when I go out early in the season, I'm targeting channel cats. I pretty much fish for them the same way, maybe downsizing baits a little bit. Maybe even the hook size, go from like 10-aught to like a 7. But when I'm channel catfishing, I'll fish some different spots and all that. When the flatheads start to move in, usually it's almost like clockwork. Every Memorial weekend, they'll start to move into the rivers, and then, you change your approach a little bit. Start using more live baits and much, much bigger baits, to try and catch much, much bigger fish.
We're talking with Lloyd Tanner. He is a catfishing expert. 3 years ago in Michigan, he caught the new state record catfish, 53 pounds and change, and he is a guy who spends a lot of time targeting these fish. Lloyd, I appreciate you being with me. Can you stick around another segment? I got to take a break, though, if you got the time.
Absolutely.
All right. I appreciate that, Lloyd. Lloyd Tanner, a catfishing guru. You can find him, by the way, online. He's involved with the Michigan Catfish Anglers Trail. That's MCATS, Michigan Catfish Anglers Trail on Facebook. And he also, just do a search for him. You'll find, you do a search for a Lloyd Tanner catfish, you will find a picture of that state record flathead of 53 pounds and change, which, by the way, Lloyd released that fish. That fish is now out swimming around for you to catch if you want. So we got to take a break here coming up. We'll come back more with Lloyd Tanner talking about catfishing again, MCAT's Michigan Catfish Anglers Trail. And then Steve Windom of MUCC will join me, and then we'll follow up with another MUCC guy, Justin Tomei, to answer this week's Ask Avery question. That's all coming up in the second hour of the show. In hour 3, we're headed to Lake Michigan. Lance Keene of Steelhead Hunter Charters, and we're going to talk about fishing, salmon, and trout. That's coming up. Charlie, we good on time? Coming up here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Carroll on 2 stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the company that makes that sound, right? The company that makes the products that make that sound. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. Yeah, I just pulled it out of my pocket. I always carry a Rapid River knife with me. I think a knife is one of the most valuable tools a person can carry. I use it every day, sometimes for mundane things like opening boxes and sometimes for more fun things like cleaning fish and game. If you're going to use a knife, why not get a knife from a Michigan-made company? Family-owned, Michigan-made. Rapid River is that. These knives are handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. They come with a lifetime guarantee. If you ever break a Rapid River knife, they will fix it for you. They will sharpen it for free for the life of the knife. If you go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com, that's rapidriverknifeworks.com, and use the promo code Avery15, Avery15, you can get 15% off your order. Better yet, go to the showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River. Check it out. It's a destination. Plus, Chris is expanding the showroom there this summer too. So lots going on. And don't forget, we are working on the Mike Avery signature, the Mike Avery Outdoors signature knife. There will be just one knife for now. Proceeds going to Outdoor Driven, a group that is formed to get vets and first responders in the outdoors. How cool is that? We're trying to get the color of the acrylic right now just perfect, and then we'll move ahead. And of course, I will keep you informed about that as we get closer, but I'm very, very excited about that. I'm also very excited to talk with Lloyd Tanner, because he is the most knowledgeable catfisherman I have ever talked with here on the show, and he's with us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Lloyd, have you been fishing catfish all your life, or is this something you just wandered into later in life?
Oh, no, it's been all my life. My dad took us out, and, I mean, we caught a catfish probably when I was 6 years old and been hooked ever since. And yeah, the older I got, it was just more and more passion towards it. Got to go out and find the monster ones. So it's always.
I know you don't eat the big cats, you don't eat the monsters, but when will you go out some days and just target smaller fish? If you get smaller fish, will you eat them?
I don't eat fish personally. It's just a thing for me. I don't know if it's because the smell of the bait and all that, I can't eat fish. I don't know why.
When you talk about the smell of the bait, what are you using?
I'm using all sorts of stuff. If I'm going out channel catfishing, I'd love to have shad. Shad's probably one of their big forage fish. Shad, yuck, chubs, bluegills. There's several, you can catch a carp and cut that up, and channel cats will pretty much eat anything. They fresh is good. I mean, you don't really have to make it all stinky and nasty, but when it comes to like the bigger flathead catfish, I do catch a tremendous amount on like fresh cut bait, but they seem to prefer a lot of live bait. This type of predator they are. They just kind of sit at the bottom, sit around the log jam, wait for something to swim by, and use their big, powerful jaws. They almost inhale whatever swims by. So.
And you said earlier you use a pretty good-sized big circle hook?
Oh, yeah. When we're going after the like monster flatheads, we're using a 10-aught hook. Gives you a lot more... Well, first off, we're using a circle hook, too, which is more designed to catch a cat in the corner of the mouth and not, say, gut hook it and stuff. That way you can release it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're using a circle hook, if you want to use a bigger bait, you need a bigger hook. That way it doesn't kind of mess with the design of the hook. Because as you slowly pull, as that cat swims slowly away, it turns that hook a little bit and right into the corner of the mouth. It always catches them there, probably 95% of all the time. So when you want to use something that's, say, a pound for bait, yeah, you need a big hook to put through it.
So do you set the hook on that fish, or does he hook himself?
Me personally, I got a bunch of rod holders on the back of the boat, and we kind of always position the boat downriver or whatever. So the rods will sit in them rod holders, and they'll be fully engaged. I mean, the only thing really is the drag set. So when that fish takes the rod down, it's something to see. That rod will just go so slow and maybe just pop up a little bit. But then when they bury it, they set the hooks themselves. And most of the time where you're fishing, you don't want them to have, say, like free line it and let them have a lot of room to run into their log jams. So you got to kind of keep it all engaged and be ready for them.
It sounds to me like you're pretty much a river fisherman, right? That's where you target these fish?
Yeah, we stick to the rivers. I do fish a lot of the lakes and everything like that. It's almost different approach. You'll go with like drift fishing or bottom bouncing, what walleye guys do a lot. And I mean, there's a lot of different techniques to really put a lot of fish in the boat. So, but I do prefer the rivers, especially the rivers that connect with the big lakes, because they seem to have the higher population of bigger fish. So,
and are these fish, Lloyd? Are these fish that live out in Lake Michigan and come up in the river?
They do.
Really?
I believe majority of these fish they winter. So call it what we call winter down into Lake Michigan when the temps start to drop, and you just got so many fish that utilize the rivers that it's when the salmon come in, it seems to push some fish out, and that's like in the fall, the salmon will come in and it'll push the flatheads out for the winter. There are some fish that stay in certain holes, what we call wintering holes, and they'll stay there, but they don't really, the big flatheads will be pretty lethargic. Channel cats, you can catch them all year long. If you can stand being out there or ice fishing for them, you can get them all year long. But flatheads tend to go lethargic in the winter, and it's always been, from my knowledge, that you just leave them alone in the wintertime. So, because they're probable, it's very easy to snag them when they're just laying there, because they'll just be hundreds and hundreds in a winter hole laying on top of each other.
Oh, no kidding.
So, yeah.
Wow.
It's something to see. A lot of states have close seasons for flatheads in winter, and I would love to see that in Michigan, but it's one day wishful thinking.
Can you, I suspect a guy like you with your experience, where these wintering holes are, but can you see those fish stacked up on the bottom on your electronics?
Yeah, you can go online and find some of these that have been posted.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of guys like out of Minnesota, there's a guy, Brian Kilwater, he he led and he did a lot of studies and everything. He showed that a lot of, just thousands and thousands of fish just laying there all on top of it, and they rarely move, and they place baits in front of them. They'll do everything they can, and nothing. You'll get no reaction out of them or anything.
Yeah, I'm going to look that up. That sounds pretty interesting. I think the concept of catfishing in general is interesting, and I think that, I guess I don't really know why it is sometimes overlooked here in our state of Michigan. Maybe it's because we have so many other types of fish or whatever, and of course there goes the salesman by the door. Why do they not get the attention that I think they deserve? They're big fish. They fight hard.
Oh, I think they are getting more and more attention with our tournament trail that we do, which is it's more about getting other people out. It gives you something to do. Getting out there fishing. Our numbers keep growing. This year during our tournaments, we're averaging probably 20 boats, and we have several bank fishing teams. Depends on which river you show up to, but every week it seems to get bigger and bigger.
I love the fact
they're
that
getting a lot more attention.
I love the fact that you let bank fishermen in on these events. I mean, catfishing is one of those things that you can do it however you're able to do it and have a good chance of catching a nice fish.
Right. And they do very well. I mean, one of the requirements in our tournament trail is you have to keep your fish alive. And they have to be released alive. And so these bank fishermen have become very creative with their big totes, live wells, 50, 60 gallons to keep, their fish alive. And, I mean, we've been letting the bank guys fish 2 years now, and they've never lost a fish. Every fish has swam away after weigh-in. So you can't say enough about how Michigan catfishers love their catfish and, take care of them. So.
And again, that state record fish you caught 3 years ago, you released that fish, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. He's out there. I look for him every other weekend.
Wouldn't that be, would there be a way of knowing? Did it have any marks on it? It wasn't a tag fish. Would you know?
There are, it's been there's been studies that they used to, there's actually been studies on the St. Joe River in fishermen did many years ago actually, where they showed that some of these fish actually return to their same homes year after year. So it always crosses my mind.
I hope you catch her again, Lloyd.
I do too.
That'd be cool. Hey, listen, Lloyd, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. I appreciate your passion. I appreciate the fact that you are really interested in promoting your sport. What you guys are doing at MCAT's, the Michigan Catfish Anglers Trail, is very cool. I would encourage people to check it out, and I will wish you a wonderful season.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Lloyd Tanner, a catfishing expert, a catfishing guru. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Steve Windom of MUCC, I want to talk with him about his successful turkey hunt, and then we'll talk about the upcoming charity golf outing, and then we'll wrap up the hour with this week's Ask Avery question. That's coming up in hour 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Holland on WHTC. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. You can hear us in Ludington, News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us north of the bridge. Let's go to Escanaba, the Riviera of the North, WCHT 600 AM, 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Versa Skins, Michigan-based, family-owned. Are you sensing a theme here? Michigan-based, family-owned. I love to work with Michigan-based, family-owned companies. And VersaSkins, Paul Perrone, the owner of the company, no exception. Paul came up with an idea of why should you spend a bunch of money on expensive hunting clothes, sets of hunting clothes, when you can buy one good quality set and snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern in less than a minute. Actually, when you see it, it's like, this is genius. Why did nobody think of this before? Check them out online at versaskins.com or go to amazon.com and do a search for Versa Skins brand. Versa Skins, just change your skin for the season you are in. Right now, I want to turn our attention to a good friend of mine. His name is Steve Windom of MUCC, MUCC.org. Steve, you sent me, and I posted some beautiful pictures of a last-minute longbeard you got just before the season closed. Congrats. Tell me the story.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Yeah, it was an exciting day. Season was long and hard. It was kind of a weird season for a lot of people with the weather, but on Friday, the second to last day of the season, a buddy of mine and I got out, and we were done by 7 a.m., and we bagged a nice big bird, 11-inch beard, 23 pounds almost, inch-and-a-half spurs, and it was a great day, a great way to end the season.
Yeah, that thing is an absolute tank. Did you call him down off the roost or what?
So we had been watching them mull around in a field for a couple days, and they were doing the same thing over and over, not a single gobble the whole morning.
Don't you hate that?
Yeah, so we just bought a pack of 6 or 7 jakes, came ripping across the field to our hen decoy, and this big guy came dragging his paintbrush of a beard behind him, just kind of sauntered over, and I was worried that the jakes were going to bust us. We were in a ground blind tucked up in the wood line, but worried the jakes were going to bust us, but we didn't. He came in, and at 26.5 yards, he met a load of shot steel.
Excellent. Well, congrats on that. Great story. Beautiful bird. And it shows that perseverance pays off. And I'm starting to love that, what I used to call May being the mosquito season. All right, let's talk about something else. Now we're going to switch our gears from turkey season to golf season to raise money for MUCC's Youth Camp, the big second annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing coming up Friday, July 25th at the West Branch Country Club. Steve, you're the guy who's really putting this all together. How's it going?
It is going great. We've got some awesome support from the community. We're about halfway full, so you better start getting registrations in if you're interested, because this event will sell out. We've only got spots for 144 golfers, and we're about to hit our halfway mark of registrations. Security Credit Federal Union, Security Credit Union has been a great sponsor as well, and we are getting excited. We're actually going to be looking to have possibly an AR golf ball launcher for a donation on one of the par 5s. So we're going to have some fun new twists this year, and looking to have everybody back up there with us in West Branch.
All right. I'm trying to wrap my brain around this. An AR golf ball launcher.
Yep. So it is a screw-on, thread-on accessory to the end of the barrel, and you stuff your golf ball down into the tube, and you use a blank. So you fire a blank, and it launches the golf ball down the fairway.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one. Anything we can come up with to get money out of people to raise funds, because all of the proceeds, it's all going to a great cause, MUCC's Youth Camp, to get kids involved in the outdoors. I can't think of a better cause, Steve.
No, I can't either. You always hear the scary stories of declining hunter numbers, but that starts with our youth to buck that trend, and MUCC is hopefully leading the charge here in Michigan to turn those numbers around. Our staff is actually going to be down there this coming week for staff training, and then mid-June we kick off and have kids there for the next 7.5 weeks doing all that great outdoor programming.
Excellent. MUCC.org /golf to sign up. MUCC.org /golf to sign up. And you mentioned Security Credit Union. Boy, they really stepped up. I had Ashley Lister of Security Credit Union on the show last week to thank her, because they've been such big supporters of mine. They jumped in with both feet to support this charity golf outing, and we're doing our best to support this. You and I were on Art Lewis's show in WSGW in Saginaw earlier in the week. We really want to put a big push onto this, a big push in for this. We want people to join us. Last year's inaugural event was so much fun. And what about that dinner? What about that steak dinner?
That was delicious, and all the great raffle prizes, from crossbows to firearms to safari packages to ground blinds. We got a lot of great stuff this year coming back. So, if you're even coming for the golf or coming for the raffles, It's going to be a great day.
You don't have to be a great golfer to join us to have fun. I mean, you can be a duffer, just get out there and have fun and join us to raise money for a good cause. It is Friday, July 25th at the West Branch Country Club in beautiful West Branch, Michigan, in beautiful Ogemaw County. Again, mucc.org/golf to sign up. Steve, you're going to be there. I'm going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I would encourage our friends to join us.
I'm looking forward to it, Mike.
All right, Steve Windom of MUCC, always a pleasure. We'll check in again soon. Steve is the guy who is really organizing this whole thing. I mean, I put my name on I came up with the idea. I put my name on it, and MUCC is doing a lot of the work. So that's pretty much a win-win right there, isn't it? MUCC.org/golf to sign up. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery question, and once again, I'm going to tap into my resources at MUCC. Justin Tomei will join me to answer a question. Hey, what was it like before Proposal G? We'll find out. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. You can hear us on the other side of the state in Tawas on WIOS 1480 AM 106.9 FM. And we can go north of the bridge at least one more time. Let's go to Manistee, WTIQ 1490 AM 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Now, in the previous segment, Steve Windom and I were talking about Security Credit Union stepping up and becoming really a title sponsor of the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing. So they are a really solid company as far as I am concerned, and the Ask Avery segment is something that they have sponsored here for quite a while. You can check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. A quick reminder, the way the Ask Avery segment works. This is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. If you have a question that's been kind of bugging you or you can't get the answer to yourself, this is your chance to try to get it answered. It could be a question you want me to answer directly or something you want me to pass along to somebody else. Now, this question this week is an interesting one. It comes through Charlie Rood at WSGW. Charlie was at the ball field, and a young listener of his, 25-year-old kid, I'm going to say, came up to him and said, look, I moved to mid-Michigan, central Michigan from the Detroit area. I have never been involved in the outdoor lifestyle until recently. I move up here and some of my friends are hunters and anglers and they're getting me involved. So I enjoy listening to Mike Avery's show on WSGW, and I heard you, Mike Avery, and Charlie talking about Proposal G and how it was passed in 1996, and it calls for sound scientific wildlife management practices. And this young listener, and I'm sorry I don't know his name, had an outstanding question. He said, well, that makes a lot of sense, but what was it like before Proposal G? And I went, I mean, I was around then, obviously, but I couldn't really come up with the specifics, the details on this thing. So what did I do? I once again reached out to my friends at MUCC, this time to talk with Justin Tomei, who is their... To me, he's a lobbyist, but he's also their political guy. He knows Lansing inside and out. I reached out to Justin. I said, well, what's the answer? He says, I don't know. I was 8 years old then. But he did some research, and he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to answer the question. Justin, you young pup, how you doing?
I don't feel so young, but I'm doing well, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you. I appreciate you looking into this. So, you know, this young guy's question it's a beautiful question because it's so pure. What was it like before Proposal G? What was it, Justin? Tell me the story.
In the before time, the long ago, it honestly was pretty similar to how it is now. So a lot of people don't know this. The commission is actually over 100 years old. It's existed since 1921. And it had a number of different authorities, but what actually happened, one of the things that helped spur Proposal G, or the need for it rather, was then Governor Engler split the DNR and created what's now EAGLE. And when he did that, he abolished a lot of the authorities via executive order and other means that the commission had and gave them to the DNR director. Now, at that time, the NRC actually hired the DNR director, and that lasted until Governor Granholm in 2009. So before Proposal G, before Governor Engler split, they had a lot of the same authorities they have now. After the split, those authorities went to the director, and Proposal G was really a restoration of the exclusive authority of the commission to regulate the taking of game.
Gotcha.
So it was kind of a restoration of then what was, 70 years of practice.
Yeah, I gotcha. No, I appreciate that, and that makes complete sense. While I have you, and you are such an observer of things in Lansing, and you swear you told me this before, and I swear you didn't tell me this before, about the changes in Lansing at the NRC.
Yeah, so Chair Dan Kildee resigned from the commission ahead of the May meeting. He was there for 2 or 3 months. I can't remember how many meetings he was at exactly, but he resigned, and so then newly appointed vice chair, former DNR director Becky Humphreys, chaired the May meeting, and within a few hours of the May meeting concluding, the governor actually appointed Commissioner Humphreys, now Chair Humphreys, to be the chair of the NRC.
Is this a good thing?
Becky has a ridiculous wealth of knowledge. She has been in the conservation game for a long time. I think you will be hard-pressed to find someone with the depth of knowledge and experience that she has. And I, just from my experience with her, she's been very easy to talk to, very easy to work with. She knows how these meetings are run. And I'm not going to say that, we're going to agree on 100% of issues, but as you always say, you wouldn't expect anybody to. But she is a thoughtful, pragmatic person, and I think it's going to be good to work with during her term.
I agree with you. I think she's going to be good to work with. Justin, always a pleasure. Thanks for checking that out for me, and keep up the good work at MUCC.
Thanks, Mike. Have a good one.
Justin Tomei of MUCC, MUCC.org, MUCC.org. And again, a thank you to Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible and for really stepping up and becoming such a big part of the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. I mean, getting kids involved in the outdoors. What better I don't want to call it a charity. What better goal could we have? Get kids involved in the outdoors. Play golf. MUCC.org/golf. We'll take a break. When we come back in hour number 3, we're headed over to Lake Michigan right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. And welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. Right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across our great state of Michigan. And our great state of Michigan is great for so many reasons. I think we have some wonderful outdoor recreational opportunities here. Is it perfect? Of course not. But man, I mean, I keep coming back to Michigan. I mean, I don't travel as much anymore, but back when I was doing the TV show, I was traveling all over the place, going to different areas to enjoy outdoor recreational opportunities, whether it was hunting or fishing. But I always came back to Michigan, and I was always glad to get back to Michigan. And I always thought, yeah, maybe we don't have full-blown mountains or whatever it is you might happen to be looking for. But when you look at the overall outdoor experience here in Michigan, it is hard to beat. and our fishing is world class. We have some world class anglers here too. And this next guy I want to talk about here, he, well, if you want to go Florida fishing, he can take you Florida fishing. If you want to fish steelhead or kings on the Manistee River, he can take you there. If you want to chase Saginaw Bay walleye, he's got you covered there. And this time of year, if you want to be out on Lake Michigan chasing salmon and trout, especially those big, beautiful Chinook salmon, the kings as we call them, he is also your guy. His name is Lance Keene. He has Steelhead Hunter Guide Service. His website is troutscout.com, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Lance, welcome back. How are you?
Good, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing good, but for a young guy, you got a pretty impressive resume there, my friend.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Tell me about your background. You got your captain's license, if I remember, at a young age, but you've probably been fishing your whole life.
Correct. Got my captain's license when I turned 21, and I'm 39 now, so I'm getting up there.
Oh, you're not a young guy anymore.
I know. There's younger than me. I always used to be the youngest one, and now I'm looking down the docks going, geez, I'm getting old.
Well, and some days, I got to believe, I mean, I know roughly the schedule you guys keep. You're doing doubles. You're working your butts off. I mean, it's not always in the greatest weather. Some days you got to feel that.
Oh, yeah. By the time mid-August gets here, we're feeling it. We're looking sideways most of the days.
I heard a good report, though, that the kings are back and the fishing's been good the last few days.
Man, it honestly hasn't been very bad. Started, catching 4, 5, 6, 8, and now it's double digits and sizes from 2 pounds to 15, 17 pounds. A few trout mixed in, but mostly all salmon. Kings, a couple cohos, but mostly kings.
Remind me, you fishing out of Ludington or Manistee?
I'm in Manistee.
Manistee, okay.
Yeah, but they're biting from Grand Haven all the way up to almost, I think they're catching them in Frankfurt, too. So.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
Wow.
It's like the whole coast is pretty much fishing pretty good.
Are the good old days of Lake Michigan salmon, are they right now?
Yes. This is what it looks like in the 2006, 7, 8, 9s when you're, we're going out in the morning catching 30, coming back, going out in the afternoon catching 30. But I think, right now the size aren't as big as, what we catch in August, but the numbers of fish in Lake Michigan are impressive.
Well, you wouldn't expect the size to be August size
Correct.
fish, right? Because
Correct.
And it's amazing how much those kings eat and how much weight they gain from now until mid-August.
Correct. They pack it on.
They're just eating machines.
Correct. And a lot of bait. Seems like the bait's pretty good. The bank is not covered up with balls of bait, which you don't see that till July and August anyways. You might see some on the bottom, this and that, but the pier heads, the harbors, the shorelines, the rivers, they all have good alewives in them right now. So that's a good sign.
So can you go out now and target kings and get your clients fish?
Oh, yes. Yep. Not a problem right now. From the surface down 100, 120 feet, fishing in 100 to 200 feet of water. I think you could go from Manistee to Grand Haven and run that same program and catch them.
Are your clients, most of them, are they repeat customers, or do you get some first-timers out there too?
I still get first-timers. First-timers kind of seem to wait a little late in the season to try to get on the boat. They might call in July and want August, and it's like, well, we fill up pretty fast. So we try to give them options like, hey, we don't have that date, but we got some openings around that or next week or whatever, and we try to slide them in that way. But most of it's repeat. Once they get off the boat, they're pretty much, same date for next year. Lock it in.
Yep. And the reason I bring up the first-timers is it is so fun to watch somebody go out there who's never had this experience. They've never maybe even been on the big water. They've never been on a charter boat, and they've certainly never had a 20-pound king screaming at the end of their line. It is quite an adventure, isn't it?
The best is, yes, when you get newbies, and, you wake up in the mornings and if they're going to bite or not, or if you put them to bed the night before, and you're like, you get the new guys on, and it's like, all right, Steve, that's my first mate. And I'm like, we better give them the rundown, because when we get out there and 6 of them go off and they don't know what to do, I was like, we better, give them the pregame warm-up right now. So, and it's pretty wild.
and what do you tell them? You got 6 kings on at once, or even 4, even 3, 4, 5. That's a fire drill.
Yeah, it's, we're just like, just kind of pay attention to what your fish is doing. Try not to watch everybody else's. Make sure your line is straight. If you see your line going, to the left or to the right, you have to walk around a little bit, move your feet, get in the back corner, or we'll tell you to stay forward, or, we kind of coach them, but we don't want them to like go in stage shock where they're like, they see the first fish come over the boat and then they're stopped reeling their fish, or they're not watching and the fish is up in front of the boat and you're like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, pay attention to what you're doing. So we try to tell them it's going to be a little wild. So just stick with us. There's some yelling and screaming and, whatever, but it's, it's all part of the program.
And then how do you decide what order to bring those fish in? Do you try to try to bring in the smallest fish or the closest fish first?
Well, the downrigger fish we try to bring in first. Like, there's mornings we'll set the boards first in the dark, try to right at dark, and we could already have a fish on or two, and I just tell Steve, I'm like, don't even act like there's one on there. Just let it be on there. Let's get the other stuff in the water first, because that one's 400 or 500 feet back there. Like, just let it be. It's not going anywhere. So we get the downriggers down, the divers out, and then, okay, we can start reeling, and then a downrigger will go. We'll try to get that one in first because it's obviously the closest. Yeah, we try to bring them closest to furthest. You're not going to get a big king in on a planer board in 5 minutes. So that one's going to stay out there the longest.
Is it still primarily a low-light fishery out there these days?
This time of year, for sure. Water's still cold, so they bite, kind of low light. It's tougher during the daylight right now, but when they're here in the later summer, when they're staging out in front of the ports, you catch them in the morning. You can catch them during the day. Not as good, but the bite still remains somewhat. Yes.
When people book you, is it kings that they want to catch, or are some of the folks who are not as experienced, or maybe even a veteran angler?
I guess
okay with big lake trout.
Yeah, I guess we kind of read the room. Kind of like we get a bunch of little kids that they're like the grandpa, dads, grandpa, grandsons. They come and like, we just need action. Just keep them occupied. And then that's easier to go just lake trout fishing because it's, not as intense, and you get the action to keep them reeling in fish the whole time.
Yeah, and I feel like lake trout fishing is like money. Those fish are there, and you can catch them pretty much anytime you want, right?
Pretty much, yep. I mean, it's, yeah. Yep, they're usually down there on the bottom. Some are just north of Manistee, and, once you lock in, you can keep picking away at them and catch them pretty consistently and pretty fast, and they can reel them in fairly easier than a bigger king, and they don't have to run the big planer boards to catch them. They catch them on a downrigger rod, which is a lighter rod for them to handle, and so it's a little easier for them.
Years ago, when I used to fish Lake Michigan a lot, and we had a lot of kings around, people talked about the slime balls and the greasers and the Lakers, and they weren't given a lot of respect. And then when the Lake Michigan salmon fishery crashed, all of a sudden those fish were pretty important fish in the food chain. How are they looked at today?
I think they're pretty equal from now until the first week of August around our parts, and even farther north they're looked probably better than a salmon because the salmon don't get up there till late in the summer time. So but yeah, I've never bashed the Laker. Yes, they used to be slimy and greasy when they'd go offshore on the scum lines and eat the bugs, and the meat was all white flesh.
Yep.
Now we got the goby, and guess what? The goby is a protein ball, and their meat is as orange as a salmon.
And those lake trout kept a lot of guys in business for a few years. We're talking with Captain Lance Keene of Steelhead Hunter Guide Service. His website is troutscout.com. That's troutscout.com. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, more with Lance Keene on fishing Lake Michigan salmon and trout. Maybe we'll talk about some of his other fishing ventures as well. Again, you can find him online at troutscout.com. Troutscout.com. More with Lance coming up. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Muskegon on WKBZ. That's 1090 AM. Muskegon was really the first port that I ever fished Great Lakes. Well, no, Manistee was the first time, but it was like 1967, and I was just a kid. When we started fishing a lot again, we would stay in Muskegon at the state park there. Anyway, WKBZ in Muskegon. You can also hear us in Sandusky on WMIC. That's 660 AM, 95.3 FM. Those are just a few of the more than 30 Outdoor Magazine radio affiliates. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reeder Landscaping. Reeder can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard as they have for me. But maybe you don't need a big landscape project. Maybe you just need a smaller project. Maybe you just want some maintenance done. Maybe some mowing, some trimming, some clearing, some whatever. And you know what? You could probably do it. In my case, okay? I have the knowledge and ability to do most of those things. But what I don't have necessarily is time. And even if I have the time, why wouldn't I want to bring a crew from Reeder in? They bring in 3 or 4 hardworking young guys, and in 1 hour, they get done what it would take me 6 hours to accomplish. So I welcome those guys in my house. They do a great job. They're very conscientious, very hardworking, and 60 years in business. You know to be around that long that they're doing something right, and they are. The website, reederlandscaping.com. That's reederlandscaping.com. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and then head over to TroutScout.com. That is the website of Steelhead Hunter Guide Service and Lance Keene, Captain Lance Keene, who is with me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Cap, when you head out in the morning there, this time of year, what's your plan of attack? Do you always know where you're going, or do you sometimes change your destination based on what you're seeing on your screens?
Well, most of the time we're rigged to go out on the drop-off. Night before, if it blows hard out of the north, would be our only situational change on the fly. If cold water moved in towards the pier heads and there was like a lot of fish out front on the drop-off, they could be near the pier heads or along the shoreline-ish, and then we might have to go, full rod swap, shallow everything up, maybe spoons and plugs instead of the flashers and flies, and fishing deep. That would be our only game change as far as the morning goes. And
when you say fishing deep, what does that mean? How deep are you?
Just 50 to 150, that depth of down with our lures, and we could be anywhere from, 120 feet of water to 300 feet of water.
All right. As a guy who doesn't fish Lake Michigan really at all anymore, I'm now over on Saginaw Bay fishing the skinniest water I can find. How do you get a bait down 125 feet? What's the best way to do it?
Well, the downrigger's been around forever, work perfectly fine. Heavy cannonball with a release, and let your lure back, hook it on the release, and then the downriggers. We run electric downriggers, and they have a digital counter, and you can pretty much set it to your desired depth, letting it down, and then when a fish bites, it'll pull it off the release, and then you're direct to the fish, and then your cannonball can come back up, and you can do it all over again.
Well, it used to be that if you walked along the dock in Manistee, you would see all these big, beautiful charter boats, and the back end of the boat was loaded with downriggers, as many as you could fit on there. Not so much the case anymore, right?
No, 2 to 3 now is kind of the max. It's been a while since I've seen somebody run 4 downriggers.
So what?
Or 5. So we used to have 5 on the one boat.
Yeah, and that was common. So
yeah.
So what are you using now in place of those?
Dipsy divers. So we're on wire dipsy divers, so wire line cuts through the water better, gets us deeper down in the water column, and we'll run actually 2 on a side. So we'll run a high and a low wire diver, one set on 3, one set on 1.5 on both sides.
And that setting determines how far out it goes away from the boat, right?
It'll go back and away, out and down.
Mm-hmm.
One will plane out farther, and we have to let more line out to get it deeper. The other one will plane out not quite as much and go down a little faster.
So in an average spread, how many rods do you have out?
July and August, we don't really have to even put more than 7 or 9. I mean, we can run our 7-rod program, 3 downriggers and 4 divers, and that's a good. I mean, if they're biting that, we can do all the work we need to do with that spread. Then that's usually fishing, below 70 feet. 70 feet and below, 7-rod program is plenty. Now, if they're up a little higher, we might stick a board or two out on each side, so then we're, around 11.
Well, in the first segment, you were talking about first thing you do in the morning is set out boards, this time of year.
Yeah.
Are you looking for steelhead or something that high, or are you looking for?
No, the kings are up. The kings will be up there, first thing. Just because water temperature is all about the same. I mean, not really, but it's less than 6 degrees from top to bottom. So yeah, there could be a king. I mean, I always saw kings crashing bait on the bank the other day when it was slick calm. First thing in the morning. Wow. So they can be top to bottom. So you got to kind of spread everything out a little bit this time of year. In the summer you get that thermocline and it condenses those fish into a certain zone. So that's why you can just get away with 7 rods and put all your spread right into that thermocline line.
I don't think I've ever seen kings crashing bait like you're talking about, like I would think of a saltwater fish doing before. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, just shimmying across the surface, splash, little explosion. You don't see like showers of ballyhoo or mullet coming out of the water, but they're up there chasing bait first thing in the morning.
Huh. And this thermocline that I hear so much about, tell me more about this.
Well, later in the summer, when we get our warmer south winds and we get a thermocline in the lake, and it can vary from day to day or wind direction or, currents in the lake. And basically when you get a thermocline, you got warm water above it, cold water below it, and it's, the sharper the thermocline, the better it is because the fish won't travel up into that warmer water. So say it's at 80 feet, we can pretty much put everything 80, 85, and 90, 95 down. And, it's a lot easier to control your spread when you only got to put everything right in one little zone.
And that thermocline is, to me, I find it so very interesting. I've been told, and I have no way of knowing this, that, and it sounds crazy, but they say the water is more dense. There's a lot of stuff in that thermocline. It is truly, it's really a barrier, isn't it?
And it is. I'm sure that the color, like gasoline hits the water, kind of makes a mirror-y thing. And then once you get into that cold water, it's probably clear, colder, denser. There's definitely a transition on there, like a mud line in a lake or something like along that. It just goes from one to an opposite, and it's like, wow, there's something going on right here.
Lance, when I look at your website, troutscout.com, and I look at the different things you fish for, you do Florida fishing in the wintertime, which I think you are an absolute genius for tying into that. River fishing on the Manistee, you're doing ice fishing, Saginaw Bay walleye, Lake Michigan this time of year. What's your favorite?
Probably, I can't compare saltwater to freshwater, but
why?
My favorite, it's not fair. The fish are meaner, stronger, faster, bigger in the saltwater, and it's just what it is. Like, you can't compare it to freshwater. It's not fair. But my favorite Michigan fishing is probably October, November, steelhead fishing in the river. That's probably still my favorite.
I'm still thinking about because, earlier in the show we had Don Miller on. He was talking about fishing Lake St. Clair muskies. And now you're talking about fishing big, hard-fighting Lake Michigan kings. And yet you say our freshwater fish can't compare to saltwater. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's pretty wild down there. Everything wants to eat the next thing.
Then how do you feel when you run over to Saginaw Bay and you're catching 18-inch walleye that don't fight?
Yeah, that's a whole different concept over there.
That's a meat run, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a meat run.
Yeah. But isn't it nice?
Go ahead.
No, isn't it nice that we have so many different types of fisheries right here in Michigan, though? Correct.
I could go do walleyes, bass, perch, bluegills are biting, salmon are biting. There's trout. The hex hatch is going to start in the streams. Pretty much I can catch everything I want right here in Michigan right now.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, you mentioned trout. Do you guys make the far offshore steelhead slick runs anymore?
They just don't seem to set up like they used to. I don't know if it's lake currents. I don't know if it's the weather. But we used to get those scum lines in June, and you could go out there and catch steelhead and lake trout and, some kings here and there, and it just doesn't seem to happen anymore. I haven't been at a good scum line. Oh, it's been 12 or 13 years, I bet.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't get it.
So, but in closer to shore, and I think you said this a few minutes ago, that you can occasionally, if conditions are right, you can find kings up near the top where I would normally think of steelhead.
Oh yeah, I think you could fish the pier heads down to the beach in 30 foot, fishing 12 to 18 down, and catch kings and probably some browns right now, and you wouldn't even have to run offshore. I don't even think you'd have to go out there. I think you could catch, especially on the right day, a little overcast, a little chop. Oh, they would bite in there because the water's same temperature from there as it is out into the deep water.
Yeah. And water temp is really everything, isn't it? The temperature is what mandates what's going on, I think.
Correct. The temperature, they're definitely following around the temperature changes, and sometimes they're in the warm, sometimes they're in the cold this time of year. So yeah, it's the temperature and the currents definitely have a lot to do with it.
Lance, as we look at your summer, if I go to the website troutscout.com, I know I can book a trip there online with you. How are you looking?
I'm getting pretty full for August. I have afternoons open. Most of my mornings are booked. July is about half booked right now. June still got some openings. But yeah, call, things change. Some people have to shimmy dates around, and there's afternoons we can get you out here and there. So yeah, there's plenty of openings. And then, you still got good fishing in September too. Out in the lake, you get a mixed bag of kings, 3-year-olds, and then coho salmon will show up pretty good. And then you start catching the steelhead too. So,
but everybody forgets about that one though, about September.
I know I know September can be really, really good out there.
Well, I tell you what, maybe the end of August this year, you and I will talk again, and we can talk about that September fishery.
Okay, sounds good, Mike.
All right, Lance, always a pleasure. Lance Keene of Steelhead Hunter Guide Service. The guy's a fishing machine. He fishes all over basically North America, and his Florida fishing in the wintertime is absolutely ridiculous. The website, troutscout.com. That's troutscout.com. Captain Lance Keene, troutscout.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. A few more things I want to talk about, and of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across this great state of Michigan, including, just making myself a little note here, including WTCM in Traverse City, that's 580 AM, and also you can hear us on WSGW in Saginaw. That's 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. In fact, I worked very closely with these folks. Just today, as we're in the studio, I did a segment with Charlie Root on the morning show. I'm still trying to get these guys. What is it? It's Charlie. Help me out, Charlie. It's Charlie, Mike, and Jonathan. So on the days I'm on, shouldn't it be Charlie, Mike, and Jonathan? It should be. Just He's balking. He's not going for it. And then also last week, I was on with Art Lewis, a member of the Michigan Broadcast Hall of Fame. I was on with Steve Windom of MUCC talking about the big golf outing coming up. So I have much appreciation for and much respect for the folks here at WSGW. And so do a lot of other people because, no. I had hopes that because it was nicer this morning that we would have a big crew out there in the parking lot, but it's threatening rain right now. And Charlie, there's not a vehicle out there. Now, don't let that bother you. It is not a reflection on you or your career or your fans. It is strictly weather related. He's like, okay, I can deal with that. So thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that. Well, there are vehicles, but they're not waiting for you, Charlie. So don't. Okay, so this segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Hammond Drives and Equipment. You've heard me say this before, but I think it's important that you deal with the right people. I've throughout my entire career and my personal life, I have found that working with the right people, partnering with the right people, going to the right people when you need help is critical. And I don't care what it is. In this case, you're talking about Hammond Drives and Equipment. If you're a farmer, a contractor, a landscaper, anybody like that who needs hydraulic hoses and fittings, Hammond Drives and Equipment can help you out. 30 years in business. You can't survive 30 years in business and grow throughout 30 years of business unless you're doing something right. Well, Hammond is. They have a warehouse full of hoses, fittings, elbows, adapters, air, water, chemical, petroleum, hydraulic, all kinds of different pressures, fractional sizes to large diameter ducting. They are in Freeland, okay? The heart of what we used to call the old Tri-Cities. But they do business across the state. You can stop by their showroom on M47 just north of town if you're in the area, or go to their website, hammondeqp.com, hammondeqp.com, or just give them a call. Do the old-fashioned thing. Pick up a phone and call them 989-695-2239, 989-695-2239. Hammond, and I love this slogan, Hammond Drives and Equipment has what you need to stay in business. And that is a pretty strong statement. HammondEQP.com. All right, so what else is going on? Let's see. This weekend here, Walleye for Warriors event on Saginaw Bay out of the Linwood Beach Marina. I am there Sunday. I am helping to MC the event. I don't want to take any credit for putting any of this thing on. I have not been involved behind the scenes. A lot of hardworking people have taken care of that. And so I just walk in at the last minute and I talk for a little while, which is pretty much the best, what I'm best at is just talking. So I always look forward to that event. Also looking forward to the big golf outing coming up Friday, July 25th at the West Branch Country Club. That is to benefit MUCC's youth camp. We've talked quite a bit about that. Wednesday Night Live. A week and a half from when you are hearing this, on the 18th, our Wednesday Night Live, I will be on Saginaw Bay with Mr. Angler Quest himself, Brad Dupuis. We will be on one of the new 2025 Angler Quests. We will be fishing out of the Linwood Beach Marina for Saginaw Bay walleye. That is at 7 o'clock. I would encourage you to tune in for that. It's on my... let's see. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It is on Twitter, now called X. I think I've got it a couple of other places as well. That is going to be a lot of fun. If you weren't with me earlier, I talked about the fact that the Michigan Natural Resources Commission has a new chairman. Kildee has resigned after being appointed by the governor as the chair of that group after just a couple of months. Not sure the backstory on that, but I'd love to hear the reason sometime. Becky Humphreys is now acting director of the Natural Resources Commission. Personally, I think that's a good, strong move. I've known her forever. She was a field biologist back when I first met her. She went on to become the director of the DNR. Then she left to work at the National Wild Turkey Federation, I think it was. I mean, she's got chops. She's got experience, and I think she knows how to get things done. So I am far more excited to see her at the helm of the NRC than I was career politician Mr. Kildee. And that's nothing against him personally. I just don't think he was the right guy for the job, and that's fine. Look, we go with our strengths, right? That's how we get through life. We pick things and we choose things, or things choose us, or people choose us to put us in positions where we're strong and we can have the greatest positive impact, hopefully. And, not everybody can do everything. What else? Keep an eye out for the upcoming Mike Avery Outdoors Signature Night from Rapid River. Those proceeds will go to help Outdoor Driven, a group that is formed to get vets and first responders in the outdoors. Can't wait for that. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. As I look at the rundown for this week's show, I'm thinking, man, I've had some interesting people on. You know, Don Miller, the Motor City Muskie guy, Nick Buggia, longtime chairman of the Michigan Wildlife Council, Lloyd Tanner, the Cat Master, Steve Windom, Justin Tomei of MUCC, and then Lance Keene of Steelhead Hunter Charters. These are all people that are at the top of their game. I mean, these are very well-known, very well-respected people. And then we saved, arguably, the best for last. The most well-known, the most well-respected, the most knowledgeable of them all, wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Minar. David, how are you?
Really good, Mike. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah, I thought I'd build it up a little extra this week. You like that?
Yeah, for my birthday,
Is it your birthday?
the 6th.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear David. Happy birthday to you. See, now you had Mike Avery sing happy birthday to you off key, so that must be a very special day for you, Dave.
It is. It's a special day now.
And how does it feel to be 64 years old?
I'm more like 76.
David, I am happy for you. Happy birthday, buddy.
Thanks. I needed that. It's the first one that I've got wished.
Well, happy birthday. You've had such an interesting career. You've made so many people happy with your meals and your recipes and your charity events over the years. How about making me happy with a recipe this week?
All right, we got stuffed trout with smoked salmon this week.
Perfect.
Last of the stream fish.
All righty.
You need this is for 4 portions, so you need 4 nice sized fish, like individual dining size, or a bunch of small ones, whichever you prefer. 6 to 7 ounces of boneless crumbled smoked salmon, a medium onion diced fine, 2 stalks of celery diced fine, a half a teaspoon of dried dill weed, about 4 or 5 slices of whole grain bread. Cut it into real nice small cubes so that when you mix this up, it's going to fit into the fish. 2 eggs beaten up. Grate in a lot of fresh black pepper. You want to have a little bit of a zing to this dish. So you need a couple ounces of gin, a couple tablespoons of garlic butter, milk to moisten, flour to dredge, and olive oil to saute. In a saute pan that's pretty warm, not smoking hot, you want to saute the onions and celery for 3 or 4 minutes over a medium heat. You don't want to burn this or brown it off. You just want to make everything transparent. And then away from the stove, add the gin and flambe when the flames die down. Or you don't even have to really flambe it if it doesn't catch on fire. Just let it, let it kind of subside down a little bit before you put it back on the stove. So when the flames have died down, add to a large mixing bowl, bread cubes, I should say, half the dill, eggs, garlic butter, and half the smoked salmon, and mix it well. If it's too dry, you can moisten with a little bit of milk. And then taste this. Make sure it's to your liking. You can microwave it in the nuke there for a few seconds just to warm it up. Pack the dressing kind of loosely into the fish. You don't want to make it too tight, just enough to hold it together. And dredge in flour and a small amount of olive oil, brown on both sides. Put it in a casserole after you get them done. You're probably going to do only 1 or 2 at a time, and then bake at 350 degrees for about 10-12 minutes, or until you get 180 degrees internal temperature. And then for a sauce, you can have a cup of white wine, ounce of good gin, juice of a lemon, or to taste, a couple tablespoons of garlic butter, 1/4 teaspoon of dill, half a cup of chicken gravy, a couple ounces of crumbled smoked salmon, and half a teaspoon of chopped parsley. In a saute pan, mix all the ingredients, heat it up to a boil, reduce and cook down till it's nice, thick, and creamy, and spoon some of this mixture on a plate, and then set the fish on top of it with a real sharp knife. Make a slit down the back of the fish and remove the top layer of skin. It should come off. You can take a tine of a dinner fork and kind of intertwine it up near the head and then roll it back, or just scrape it off. It's up to you. And then leave the skin on the bottom and sprinkle with some chopped parsley. And this is a great way to use some of the small stream trout. This is our last recipe for that for the year.
I remember this. It's a good one. And you used a term that I didn't even know was on a chef's vocabulary, or part of your kitchen arsenal: microwave.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know you guys used a microwave.
Oh yeah. For stuff like this, it's great. Or if you want to heat a little something up, it's good. Or you can actually, if you're stuck in a pinch, you can defrost pretty good with it.
There you go. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar using common tools that the rest of us can as well. Wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. As are you for listening. Honestly, if you weren't listening, there'd be no reason for me to do this show. And I don't know what else I would do. This show, by the way, is called Outdoor Magazine Radio. It is a radio show, but there's also a podcast version available. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I say this every week, but I would love to hear from you. Let me know what's on your mind. Send me your pictures, and I'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.